Now, you did say you spoke at the UN in New York.
Mm,
Firstly, what was New York like? I want to go. So, did you
you should
get to do
definitely
some
go.
sightseeing? Yeah.
Definitely go. It's the
Mm.
best. Like I loved it. God, I don't know how I'd even like. I mean, I really love art, and so I visited a lot of like museums and went to like see. I think it was Wicked on Broadway. New York's
Oh,
wonderful. Like it really
mm.
is, and I found that I guess going into the culture of the US versus Australia, I find that they're very much, I mean, this goes for all genders, but I feel like it's
Mm.
like a you go girl kind of like energy. It's like it's like
That's
go
going to
girl,
make
like
cut.
yeah. It's like I don't know. I found that all like the women I talked to, and just generally like the people at the UN when they saw like a young girl with disability or like a young person, they're like, oh my God, like you go, kid. Like, I've been going
Mm.
here for 10 years and like I really, really need some fresh energy coming into it. And so there is like a lot of love and I guess care for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I found I don't know, I guess New York, I could love it. I mean, I could talk about that for years, but I think I better keep it more onto the UN at the moment. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it was so the event that I went to was the
Yeah.
Conference of State Parties 16 for the Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. So it's a long name, but
Mm.
you see a really interesting crowd there. Like I found that there was a lot of people from the Commonwealth, so sort of like Africa, but as well like sort of European countries, etc. And I think there was there's two sort of tiers of the UN, I guess, of people who go. You've got the civil society, which is like sort of think of like it's your non-for-profit sort of people, and then you've got
Yeah.
your government people. And that big fancy hall that everybody sees is like that technically is only meant to be for governments to like speak to each other and to give reports. But COSP is unique in the fact that every 2 or 3 government speeches they let a person from civil society speak, and so like we got to sit into like the big hall but as well like hear people like crop up and speak. And so I knew about that opportunity at the beginning and I was like, nah, like I'm just gonna enjoy my time there, meet people, and then
Yeah.
see what happens. I was like, I'll leave the speaking for like people who are really like spend time researching, etc.
Okay.
And then I didn't realize, but the day before that all of the government officials came, there was a whole conference meeting with the civil society. And so
Mm.
like kind of a similar vibe. They had like panels and like people cropping up and speaking. And I was like, at one point, like I was hearing everybody speak and they're like, oh, like, okay, does anybody want to speak? And I was like, in the back of my head, I was like, yeah, like I do. Like you guys, like let's have it. Like I was like, I mean, there's one person, young person throughout the whole panel, but I mean, the ways that some of you are talking, like I just feel like I need to just say the basic like sort of things about like co-design, etc. So put my
Yeah.
hand, I looked over to Sky, like the CEO of like Cider, and I was like, can I? And she was like, yeah, like go for it. And I was like, hi. And then my mum was also there with me, and like I don't know, she was like posting some photos onto Instagram, and she was like didn't really know what was going on. And then
Mm.
she was like, "Oh my God!" Like, and then 2 minutes later, you were like talking, and they were like, and so I just sort of felt like I needed to give an impromptu speech. It was 2 to 3 minutes, and I think it was all of these smaller experiences of speaking at the summit, speaking on like radio interviews about the summit, speaking to young people, and I was like, none of like the conversations that were happening in the civil society were talking about like they were all talking about, yes, we need like inclusion and diversity within disability advocacy, but you
Mm.
weren't talking about how to do it. You were just saying we need to consider these people.
Mm.
And I was like, well, you don't just need to consider them like a box on like the
Mm. Yeah.
checklist. I was like, you need to actively be talking to the people, like co-designing with them. This is what we did in Australia. It's worked really well. It's been really effective. We've got a whole generation of young people with disability as leaders now and advocates coming through, and you guys like see that. I feel like it's going to be like a
Yeah.
massive thing coming up. But I was like, you guys aren't even like talking about how to include young people or like how to include you know girls or things like that. You're just saying, oh, we need to remember them. And so I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I was like, we're tired of speaking for and by teachers, support workers, parents. I was like, we need to just remember to like talk to the people themselves. And I was like, if there's anybody else in the room who has like young people with them as representatives from different countries or whatever, please come to us as Australia, and we'll like love to have a chat about what we can do. And so afterwards, I was like, oh my God, okay, I just did that. Like that was really fun. I loved it. And then
What
it
a
ended
moment.
up, yeah, I mean, it was incredible. It was pretty surreal seeing myself on like the screen with like the little subtitles coming up. I was like, oh my God, I've seen that on the news. And then it actually ended up spurring a couple of other young people from Australia to speak as well, which is awesome. But
Beautiful.
one of the great things about it was that after the whole session, like you get like 20-minute breaks every couple of hours or so. And after that break, I just got like swarmed with people afterwards. Like they just came to me and I was like, oh my God, like people actually listened. Like they actually really care. And I was like, oh. And so I met like incredible people, like youth advocates that I'm still in contact with now who like live in Timor-Leste and etc. But I think that it was just a moment where I was like, wow, like if I hadn't said that, like I wouldn't have found out about this organization who's specifically working for young people in the Commonwealth. I wouldn't have learned about this organization who runs summits in Vienna, who wants to have like more integration with young people. Like it was like, oh my God, like you only just need to say we're here and like we want you to talk to us and we want this to happen, then people will come to you. But it's like if I stayed silent in that moment, it might have just like never happened. And so I think it was incredibly empowering, and like, you know, you feel the adrenaline, and like I don't know if it happens for other people, but something that happens to me is that like I get nervous after I've done the thing. So like I was shaking like afterwards. And so I was like, oh my God, like I just did that. And I think it's like the adrenaline, but like I don't really get nervous about it beforehand. And I'm just like, okay, I need to do this. Like, okay, rah, rah, rah. And then I'm like, oh. And so
That's interesting.
yeah, so that's
That
what it
is
was like.
interesting.
Yeah, it was a big day and it was really exciting. And I think brought a lot of momentum and energy to, I guess, like Team Australia, because like everybody like chats on the group chats like we just did this, and it's like so
In a way, to go back to that nerves bit, I'm the complete
Mm,
opposite. So
yeah,
I'm really nervous beforehand and going over my notes
yeah,
religiously in a way, and then I'll get on stage, and then once I've got the
mm,
mic, and then I'm at ease, I'm calm.
yeah. Well, that's so interesting that you say that, right? Because I think it's part of it is being like prepared and knowing that you're going to do it. Like a lot of the people who gave those speeches, like those 2 to 3 minute speeches, were people who had pre-prepared it. Like they had like full on like, you know, stats backing up everything what they were doing. And I was just like, this is me, like this needs to be considered, rah, rah, rah. Like I wasn't speaking off any notes. I was like, rah, rah, rah. And so I think that sort of helped with like a lack of nervousness beforehand. But I guess everybody's different, right? Because I also like did a lot of like performing like when I was younger as well. Like I did a lot of dance performances, and like and the same thing happened. Like I was like always fine beforehand, and afterwards I'd be like shaking. So kind of just depends.
It's every individual is different. That is for sure.
It's
Mm,
very interesting.
Your parents must be so proud of you with all the stuff that you've done so far.
thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's been incredible. They've been the best supports ever. Like, I couldn't ask for anything